and welcome again to Lady Love, where professional CEO women like yourself find the tools and strategies to find their heart's guardian, the person who gets you and seamlessly intertwines with your success. My name is Joan Kenyon-Woods, and I'm your host. Today, though, I'm going to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart. Well, I've gone through it as well, and I had a request to talk about this. And so we're going to talk today about blended families. And when we think about blended families, we think about, and it is when you or the spouse or the person you are going to be with come together already with children. You already have children from an outside relationship, whether it's a marriage or another relationship, and you come together and you've got children. This was part of my life. My mom married again, and this gentleman had two children. So there were four children in the home, his two and her two. I have a sister, and so he had a son and a daughter, and my mom had my sister and I. So there were four of us. And I have to tell you that it was not easy at all. My poor mom, for her, it was an eye opener because my sister and I were older than this gentleman's children when they came. And I say gentleman because I never really called him dad. First of all, we were older and old enough then to not have to call him dad, and I just called him by his first name. But she feels like she had already raised her children. And I think for many of you out there, that is the case, that you're going into a relationship and you're thinking, goodness, or you may not go into a relationship because you think, oh my goodness, I have to raise someone's children. And I want to tell you that there are certain things that you can do to help, right? Because if you're thinking of a relationship today in midlife, I don't think you're going to miss having a person who is coming with children. So a blended family. And my title today is The Brady Bunch Rides Again, or The Brady Bunch Returns. And so if you're in midlife, you will know all about the Brady Bunch. And if you're younger and watching this, Google them. All right, Google it. Such an interesting bunch, too. And so here are some of the things that worked for us in that blended family that I grew up in for a while. Okay. One of the first thing is you have to give it time. When you're first together, and I'm pretty sure for my mom, when she was first together, she just was thinking of it was him and her and us because the children were not with us at the time. Then, they started living with us, and then it was really, really different to have them there with us as well. So I know it's a tough situation. It really is, and I don't think she handled it really well. Nor did he, because most of the time, I think he had given up the handling and the managing or raising of his children to the ex-wife. And so when my mom came on the scene, she was like, oh, what do I do with teenagers? And we were very different children. So you have to remember that when you get together with this person, you are going to be a very different in a very different space because you might have been a very different parent to your children as he is or she, whomever you're with. Well, it's you're finding a husband because I'm talking to ladies out there, right? And so you probably have raised your children or your child very different from how he's raising his. And for the situation I was in with my mom and this gentleman, his children, it was exactly that. My parents were pretty much laissez-faire parents. Anything goes, and we were just easygoing. And thank goodness it worked for her, right? And my sister and I turned out pretty good, I would say. But for him and his children, when they turned teenagers, and especially his daughter, they were wild and difficult. And that was not my mom's experience. So if you're going into the relationship thinking I'm just going to parent the way I've always parented. Try to think again, because you have to be flexible. Be more flexible in how you would parent your own children, because those children may be so different from what you're used to that it takes a really, really patient, thoughtful person to think of, how do I now change how I've always parented and do it differently. So think about how you can do that differently now that you're looking at somebody else's children. Another great thing that happened, was one of the good things, was getting to know the other parent. These children would go off to see their mom, and she'd come and pick them up, and we'd get to say hi and all of that. And granted, I wasn't home much because I was away in college, and my sister was too. So we didn't get to really be around all of the families, blendedness. We weren't there all the time. So when we did see them, though, it was important for the children to go and be with their other parent, and they would do that every other weekend or so on. And that's a good thing. So allow for the flexibility in how the children relate to you and their other parent, right? You are with their dad, but they do have a mom. And often when you're in this relationship, because even I felt that way, that this person not my dad, so I didn't feel like I had to act like he was my dad. I had a dad, but he just was not here with my mom anymore. And so get to know the other parent of these children, and allow them to know the other parent of your children. It's important because all of those exes and the connections continue even when the relationships have broken or separated, right? Because they're still there. They're still their parents if they're still there. And if they still are there and alive and well and want to be involved, allow for that. Allow for that, because it will only lead to resentment. I know that often. I think his son was really resentful because he was very close to his mom. And he was a young boy, maybe like 7 years old. We were like 18, 19. And he was this child who couldn't understand, I suppose, why his parents weren't together anymore. And he was with this new woman who was supposed to be his mom. So for him, I think, especially because he was the youngest, and there were three girls. So my mom had two girls, he had a girl. So there are three girls, and this poor boy was in the middle of all of this girl power. And so I think for him, it was the most difficult. But I do remember often trying to make the girl feel as if we were all just sisters, right? Because she was younger than my sister and I. And in our efforts to make it a blended family that blended, we did encourage her to come with us on shopping sprees and things like that. And it just got difficult as she became a teenager and more rebellious and difficult, that it was hard for us to really align with her because we had a different upbringing than she did. So I sympathize, because it must have been painful not to beat your mom. She's in the same town as you and same, state and everything, but you couldn't really be with her as much, right? So have some kind of structure in your home. I remember that we did have that. The younger two siblings, were involved in school. My sister and I were, as I said, away in college. So we really had that structure of that life, that we were continuing to do that, our education, everything else. And we would only come home on weekends or holidays. I don't remember really being home much at this time when my mom first met with this fella and then got married. It was home, and I'd go there on holidays, but it wasn't a constant home every single day that I could see the everyday workings of what was happening. Mainly it was my mom dealing with all the angst of this young girl turning from puberty to teen age, and then all the acting out that she did, mostly because she didn't have her own parent there, right? So getting to know the child was really important. I see now how my mom did try. I'd go back on the holidays and she would be in the room, and my mom had many jewelry, and she would try them on and, be behaving like a little girl, interested in them dressing up and all that stuff. And I thought it was cute. She was a little sister. It was great. And my mom did her best to try to get to know this child, right? But as she grew from tween, as I said, she was probably like 10 years old those times, into a teenager, it started to become difficult because we were different children and raised differently. I don't remember my sister and I acting out that much. Pretty sure we did. We weren't perfect, but she really went to the extreme. I mean, the extreme. So for my mom, that was a new thing. And their dad seemed to have given up all of the parenting work to their mom before. So when that tie was severed, it became difficult, I'm pretty sure, for this young girl, that her mom was no longer there as that, centered force in her life. And her dad just sort of, I'm with my new family now and let's go. So it's going to be difficult, sisters out there, when you're thinking about, do I really want to put myself into this kind of situation? Do I really want to meet somebody with these children who have all these issues and concerns? Well, let me tell you, first of all, when you meet the guy, and in midlife today, you're probably going to meet a guy who does have children. And when you meet him, it should be about the strengthening of your relationship. How are we getting along? How are you and he working together? And build that relationship strong first, because I think in the beginning, my mom, they had a good relationship. And so with the children being difficult, it unraveled later on, because as she grew older, she just sort of did everything. But, the relationship was strong in the beginning. So start there and make sure that the relationship is strong enough to withstand anything, even acting out children, because that can be pretty tough. So build on, what is it that we have in common? How are we going to be parenting now together rather than how we did it before? For my mom, though, it was a learning curve, because it was, wow, these are young kids who are so different. We had grown up in London, very different sort of culture than America. So these children were here. She met her second husband here in America, and they got married here. And the expectations that the children had, they should have all these things. And I just remembered my childhood being a lot less full of things than they were expecting. And today, it's even worse with the phones and the this and the cars and everything. So just the expectations of what they thought they should have or be getting from the parents, as well as what they wanted in their life, was so different. So culturally, just be ready and prepared to, how am I parenting, and how is this part of who I am, and what I've done before, what I do with my own children, and how is it different from what he's doing with his children. So talk together. You've got to talk. Communication is so important, not only together, but with the other parent as well. If it's their mum whom they're missing, allow for those relationships to continue in the best way that you can. One thing I teach the women who are in my program too, who are moms, is that if the dads want to be involved, please allow them to be involved, especially if you have a son. They need that masculine influence in their life, right? So there was this little boy, and he needed his dad's influence in his life. So most of us women couldn't replace that. He was surrounded by women, and it was just his dad that he had to teach him all the masculine things. Communicating with the ex-parent. I think I mentioned it before, but it is so important. I have to look at my notes to make sure I get that, because communicating with that ex-parent, you, the parent, the person now who's in the relationship, is so important. If it's possible, it may not always be possible, but especially if the children are having some difficulty, pick up the phone and just say hello. Is there something I can do that your son or your daughter prefers to do or have always done that works for them? What is it that works for your child that I could do? Listen, as a teacher, when kids come to our class every year, one of the things we give them is a sheet for them to fill out and their parents to fill out as well. We want to know about your child, and there's no one better than you to tell us. And so, if you want to know about the child, ask the other parent who's not there. If it's cordial, I know in this day and age, it can be difficult to talk to another person, or the exes, because that's part of the problem, probably, right? But if you can, if it's possible, then ask, get some help on how am I working with this child who's not mine. And by the way, when you get into this relationship, it's no longer your children and my children, it's ours. I know it's hard. I felt it for a while too. But as an older child in this relationship, I really didn't need to be coddled as much as my sister, I would say, right? And she's only like a year younger, but I think she needed my mom more than I did. I became very independent very quickly, going off to college, doing all of that stuff. But yeah, make sure that it is about our children, not yours. And, the statistics show that sometimes we tend to, if we're in a blended relationship, just think of our children, and we may be prone to treat them differently than his children. But do your best. Do your best. I know, and sometimes they are difficult. Like that little girl, she was really difficult. So I don't know how my mom coped, really. If it were me, I don't know. I don't know what I would have done with a really difficult child that was not my own. So I say it's not easy. I know it's not easy. But on this Mother's Day, when you are a mom to your own children, to other children, if you're in a blended relationship, or if you're an auntie, so all the ways that people are moms today, if you're a grandma who's being a parent, I know that it can all be difficult. But for my CEO sisters out there who are looking for their heart's guardian, he may come with children. He may come with the Brady Bunch, and you become the Brady Bunch again. It is back to that. I know today that that is happening more than we think, and it can be really, really difficult. But I'm here for you. I'm here to answer the questions about everything about love. How do I make this work for me? How do I make sure that everything is as it should be in a relationship that has many people in there that I have to care for? I know you can do it. You can reach out to me in all platforms, Joan Kenyon-Woods, because I'm here to answer all those and other questions you have about love. And if you've enjoyed today, I want you to have an excellent Mother's Day for all the moms that you are, to whomever you are a mom. And this is Joan Kenyon-Woods. Please reach out to me on Facebook, LinkedIn, IG, everywhere, joankenyonwoods.com. That's joankenyonwoods.com. And let me know how you're enjoying Lady Love. Until we meet again, and remember, ask for what you want. Seek to become what you want, and watch him knock down the barriers to your heart's guardian. This is Joan Kenyon-Woods and Lady Love. Bye-bye.